Our world is one unit, and yet we have artificially created different countries and selfishly focused on what is good for each of us. What the world needs today is effective collaboration between nations to address critical issues such as climate change, reducing poverty through focusing on education, health, and job creation. What the world needs today is not to highlight our differences based on color and religion, but with compassion and care, embrace and respect our differences. What the world does not need is to be obsessively focused on our GDPs and the armament race, but have deep care and concern for the well-being of all. World needs us to teach our future generation to be good human beings so that we do not end up using our technology and our power to harm and hurt each other. The world needs to create a safe, meaningful, and worthwhile space for all to live for generations to come.
Good morning again to all of you. We begin our conversation on walking the path of yoga with our esteemed guests. Shree Uday Pendse will be in conversation with Yogi Dr. Samprasad Vinod. Uday Pendse is a yoga therapist and consultant. He has done his diploma in yoga education from Kaivalya Dham, Lonavala, and is a full-time yoga professional for more than 43 years. He has been a guest faculty at Tata Management Training Center, Muktangan De-Addiction Center, and others. He has researched on mechanical backache, epilepsy from Uppsala University, Sweden. Yogi, Dr. Samprasad Vinod, has 45 years of rich experience in training, treatment, and research in yoga. He blends Indian spiritual wisdom with modern scientific knowledge through various activities related to yoga. He is a mental trainer of many sports persons playing tennis, cricket, chess, shooting, badminton, table tennis, and other sports. He is the originator of the most unique concept of Shavasana meditation. Swanand Sahyog Sadhana, the S3 model for individual and social growth and well being, and Atmabodh Sadhana. He is a successful author and co author of 15 books on yoga topics and recipient of about 250 felicitations, accolades, and awards. We welcome Yogi Dr. Samprasad Vinod and Shree Uday Pendse to our studio, and I request Shree Uday Pendse to lead the conversation, please.
Well, we were to start at 11:45, so I was going to say good morning, but now it is post 12, so it is good afternoon. What I plan to do is I'm not going to keep bothering Samprasad ji off and on because once he starts his flow, it is not quite justified to disturb the flow. So I'll just put a few concepts that I have in mind. And the way I see, I will predominantly be touching on the Bahiranga Yoga. And as you know that Samprasad ji is full of colors. And then I say full of colors means he will be on Antaranga Yoga. So, and the moment you go inside, I don't know, the infinite colors that you may possibly be seeing are difficult to even classify. So that is why Antaranga Yoga and Bahiranga Yoga. Bahiranga is, fixed with a set of colors. We have Vibgyor and you may have various shades, but the Antaranga Yoga is infinite colors and infinite infinite and infinite. One of the first things that, so far as walking the path of yoga is concerned, I feel one of the major issues which is in a way hurting me in a big way is the manner in which yoga is being looked upon today. When we call on one hand, it is a darshan shastra, and we are totally going in the direction of pradarshan shastra. Okay, so whether it is to be called Pradarshan Shastra or should be called Darshan Shastra itself is a big dilemma now. In fact, now it is 43 and 46 years of our life. So far as I am concerned, I have lived enough with this Darshan Shastra, and now the people in the field of yoga will have to fight out this issue of Darshan becoming a Pradarshan Shastra. Now, when we look at different stages or the angas of Patanjali's yoga, I have a feeling that there is nothing like step one, step two, step three, step four. They are so embedded into each other, you cannot separate one from the other. In fact, off late, when we're talking about asanas, I have started putting across a term that are we doing an asana? Okay, we are doing an asana. I have gone into an asana. But then you should allow the asana to speak. Okay, so that's the kind of ideology I'm trying to promote. You are in an asana, you have gone into a posture, fine. Now let the posture do its job of trying to sing a song. Let the asana decide what it wants to do to your living system, rather than you trying to dictate this should happen in an asana. आसन की बदौलत क्या हो रहा है उसको सुनो. Learn to listen to an asana rather than dictate a particular music in an asana. उसमें कौन सा सुर लग रहा है उसको जानने की कोशिश करो. So, या बहुत सारे अलग अलग टर्म्स आजकल हम यूज करने लग गए हैं. We call it basically Nach and Gan. How is the movement, and how is the movement resulting into a kind of a music in you? Because I'm reminded of during our 74, 75, when I was, I had just moved from typically a super urban life of a class one government officer into a yoga stream. And then, Swami Digambarji making us go through Kriya Yoga and going through Om Stavan, etc. It somehow didn't have any kind of a deep understanding then. But over a period of time, I began to feel fantastic terminology is used in that Om Stavan. Merudand me bank naal hai, ulti gang kahave Om. मेरुदंड में बंक नाल है उल्टी गंग कहावे ओम. ओम ध्वनि से चढ़ते चढ़ते निश्चल घुमरी आवे ओम. So the word there that has been used, this word is dhvani. Om dhvani se chढ़ते चढ़ते निश्चल घुमरी आवे ओम. We are talking of taking a dip into the Ganges, but we are nowhere even on the edge of the Ganges. So first of all, the asanas, I think, are going to help you go to the edge of the Ganges, and then we consider getting into the kind of a stream. Because all through the sutras, the best, so simple, yet so fundamental, so beautiful, so clear. That's the beauty of the sutras. In fact, that's the only place where it has been so categorically defined that what is Ishwara? Ishwara is not typically like the God that we look at. Ishwara has been defined as Purvesham api Guruhu Kala Anavachedata, something which is earliest of the earliest and indivisible by time. And Tasya Vachakaha Pranavaha Tat Japas Tadartha Bhavanam. I tell you, every word, every sutra speaks so beautiful. So what I'm going to let Samprasad do or request him is, let us ask him to take us to the journey into the antaranga, that what I have just tried to say, O madhvani se chadte chadte nishchal ghumari ave om. So the Kaivalyapad and this and that, all that eventually he may be talking about. So I think with these few little, maybe I would say, gross words, as you may call it, as compared to what Samprasad ji is at the level of. Over to Samprasad ji in between if you feel like trying to share something or you want me to sort of put a different kind of a question frame to you, you may let me know. So we have Samprasad ji with us, and recently, for your information, he has signed an MOU with SPPU for doing research in the field of yoga with the help of the institution he runs. Over to you, Dr. Samprasad ji.
Thank you, Udayji and Manjiriji, for giving me this opportunity to connect with you all. And good afternoon and namaste to all. Walking the path of yoga is the topic that is given to me. And I think it has two dimensions. One is walking the path outside and walking the path inside. And they are both complementary to each other, they are not against each other. And when you are living in this world, you need certain, uh, you come across certain problems and you need to handle them well so that you are free of the burden of those problems and be free of the stress so that you understand what is going around you well, and also if that is carried inside, because what we call as outside world and inside world are just the terms that we use, but in reality inside world is a reflection of the outside world, and outside world is imposition of my own conditioning on the outer world. But the fact is that we are born with a certain reality which is quite paradoxical. Like we are born with a changing and non-changing self going hand in hand. So when we are born, the death begins alongside, and part of us keeps on changing all the time. Our appearance, our thinking, our physical appearance, and everything, emotions, everything changes. But all these changes are being made possible by something within us which is changeless. And this is going hand in hand. So our life itself starts with paradoxes, like life and death going hand in hand. Change is like dying every moment. And that dying is made possible because we are alive every moment till we die. So in that sense, life and death are going hand in hand. And until we finally exit from this world, this paradox, we have to learn to live with it. And the beauty of yoga lies in helping us manage both these dimensions in a very harmonious and very beautiful manner. So, what actually happens is with the help of yoga, you are able to develop your ability to understand things better, learn things better, have a deeper understanding of everything that you come across. And this deeper understanding helps you liberate from the bondages that are created time and again. So, the approach and attitude that you develop through regular practice of yoga is made possible because you're changing from within, and this change is not just temporary, but it's going on all the time, every moment. So, when we're living in the outer world, if we have the right approach and right attitude towards looking at various problems, various situations, various people, various thoughts, various conditions that we come across, if we are able to deal with it well, then the problems will become more bearable. And if the problems can be sorted out, they'll get sorted out. But if we don't have the right approach and right attitude, then we get entangled, sucked into those problems, and we get uh, those problems overburden us, and we get lost in those problems. So for that, not letting that to happen, we need to start from ourselves, and we have to first learn what meditation is, and then we have to also learn how meditative state is to be retained while doing various yoga practices. And by doing so, you learn how to maintain your inner peace while doing certain selected physical actions. And once you go through those actions over a period of time, then you begin to develop that right approach and right attitude, as I said. Because when you start meditating, the most important part to remember is you have to start from the body, because that's where the mental stress appears. The signs of mental stress and problems that we face get reflected at body level in the form of tensions in the body and in the form of discomfort. So if we are able to address those at physical level and get ourselves free from that entanglement, then we are able to connect. Uh, we are in a position to connect with mind and deal with it. And the bridge between body and mind is our breath. So when you start during meditation, when you first become first lie down comfortably or sit comfortably, and then you experience all the tensions in the body. And so once you have addressed these two issues at body level, you have removed discomfort, and you have also experienced the tensions in the body, various parts of the body. And after experiencing the tensions, if you move those parts and release those tensions, it's more deep kind of relaxation that you reach, rather than just self suggestions that my body is relaxing and relaxing and relaxing. But that remains very superficial. It does help to some extent, but a deeper relaxation of muscles comes only when you understand that there are tensions in the body, you actually experience them, perceive them, and then by moving the parts little, you release those tensions. So, first, the discomfort and tensions in the body, once they are released, then you get ready for connecting with mind, and the bridge between body and mind is breath. So when you become aware of breath, now you can become aware of breath at your nostrils over here or at the belly. If you start being aware of your nostrils at nostrils, then you tend to force and concentrate more, and that results into creating frowning on your forehead, because the area is small and uh, you are not trying to remain aware, just aware, but you tend to become uh, focused on your nostril, tip of the nostril, and that results into tension on the facial muscles. But if you remain aware of the movement of your belly at a moment of your breath at your belly, and without concentration and without control of breath, then you develop that sense of awareness, which is so important. And once you develop that kind of awareness where you're aware of breath, but you're not controlling and concentrating on it, so that results into effort free awareness, effortless ease, which is very important. And with that, when you reach the mind and when you start handling various thoughts that keep appearing all the time one after another, if you remain consciously aware and if you do not react to them, and reaction means a particular thought which is good, if you say that this thought is good and therefore it should stay, and a particular thought is bad and therefore it should not stay. So this is reaction. And if you do not give reactions, and if you realize that by giving reactions your mind gets cluttered with thoughts, then you begin to understand that yes, reactions breed thoughts. And if I, after realization of the fact that reactions breed thoughts and entangle me in the thoughts themselves, at that, after this realization, it becomes easy to not react to thoughts, and then you start responding to thoughts. So this transition from reaction to response has great relevance in our day-to-day life, because reactive behavior tends to be impulsive behavior, and wherever there is impulsive behavior, there are problems. But when you handle your thoughts carefully and do not react to them, your mind becomes quiet, silent very easily, and along with your mind, your I-ness also gets settled. Me pana, I-ness. I is capital I. So that I-ness, if it is also dissolved with the thoughts, then you begin to sense things differently, because that I-ness keep, keeps all the time whatever perceptions I receive from the external world, when they get individualized, they are kind of uh, losing their original identity, perception of reality of the outer world. When it is that perception is individualized, it is given some name, then uh, that perception doesn't remain what it actually is, but it gets translated, transformed, or its nature, not nature, but form changes. But instead of that, if your mind is quiet and the perceptions are coming and you're just letting them come and you're not reacting to them, then the situation arises wherein your mind remains quiet all the time, most of the time throughout the day, and a situation arises, you tend to understand it better, because you're perceiving reality and you're not uh, distorting it according to what you feel. Whenever there is a difference of opinion between two person, usually the problem lies in um, fight between two egos or two eyes, two aham, and that results into they are fighting because I say that I am true, and person with whom I have a fight says that he is true, and I insist. If I keep on insisting that I am true, whatever I say is true, and the other person keeps on saying the same thing, then there is no dialogue, there is no conversation, there is no understanding. But if I become mentally flexible because of the regular practice of meditation and meditative way of doing yoga practices, and therefore I develop right approach towards looking at life and receiving information that I gather from all the organs of my knowledge, uh, those perceptions will be uh, visualized or viewed in taken in perspective and would be understood better, and then the response would generate would be more holistic in nature, because as it is, we are whole human being, like body, mind, intellect, emotions, and spirit, that we are made up of. uh, there is a seamless union between all these dimensions. And if we have to prepare ourselves to perceive this inner reality, inner yoga, so this uh, seamless oneness between all the components of our being is to be understood, then we ought to develop right perspective, right approach towards looking within. And that approach comes with practice of meditation. And as I said, going through all the four phases from physical to breath to mind and beyond. Then, when you are beyond mind and when you start being aware of inner happenings, then you begin to see how this seamless union between all the components actually exists, and we have to just discover that. because this union is not to be created, it's already there. But we cannot appreciate it, we are not able to understand it or perceive it because we are uh, turning every perception into individualized perception. But if we look at it without any individual bias and see the truth every moment that you come across, and with this approach, meditative way of doing yoga practices, and which helps you take meditation into daily living. And that means that internally you're composed, quiet, and collected, and all the vagaries of life that you come across do not tend to disturb you so much, but you are able to take things in perspective and are able to handle those problems well, because you're able to see the truth of the matter, truth of the situation, and not according to what you feel. As I said, if there are differences between two persons and if they are just fighting, they're fighting because they're trying to prove who is true. Person A is saying that I am true, and other person is saying B is saying that he is true, then the fight will go on and on and on. But if you are flexible mentally and if you are able to understand what you are looking at of a given problem, the portion of or the surface or the face of the problem that you see has another face to it, another side to it, and to be in a receptive mode to perceive what other person's point of view is, you need to be mentally flexible, and that flexibility comes through meditation. And then you don't start fighting who is true, but you start finding out what is true. And this transition is very important because um, every situation, like for yoga, for that matter, it is same for all. Like Ashtanga Yoga by Bhagavan Patanjali, the original Patanjali, I mean, not the Patanjali as brand, but the original Maharshi Yogi Patanjali. So, so when he talks about Ashtanga Yoga, the beautiful, as Udayji mentioned initially, that those sutras are so beautiful, and they all the sutras carry uh, kaivalya deeply embedded, deeply hidden in them, and that kaivalya has to be discovered from each sutra. It's a very interesting journey, but when we're uh, walking in this world or living in this world, we need to gather ourselves together, keep ourselves together, and when we move in this world, that you come across, understand them well, take them in perspective, and gather that information for future reference in a given situation, similar situation, so that you are able to handle the problems better. But for that to happen, and for yoga to be brought into daily living, we need to first look within to find out how beautifully um, body, mind, intellect, emotions, and spirit are intertwined seamlessly. And that seamless union within ourselves, if it is perceived, if it is understood, with the help of meditation as a tool to enter inside and being with yourself all the time. So, the awareness that you develop through meditation helps you to be with you all the time and consciously with you all the time. We are as it is with ourselves because we have no choice. We cannot leave ourselves. So, we have to live with ourselves. There is no choice. But if that living becomes friendly and playful, so if we're friendly with body, friendly with mind, and playful, suppose you happen to come across some problem with the body, and if you're friendly and playful, you'll understand the body problem better and solve it better than getting overburdened by physical problem. Same is true with mental problem, emotional problems, intellectual problems, and spiritual. Actually, spiritual is not the right word, but there is no alternative. Adhyatma is the right word, because Adhyatma means whatever you do that takes you towards your Atman, or towards your real self, or your core self, or your Purusha, or Ishvara, what you will. The words do not really matter, but the essence of your being. If you are able to reach to the essence of your being, perceive it, and understand the reality that all these components of body are seamlessly connected with each other, and that's the yoga we are born with. This seamless union between all these components is real yoga. And all the practices that we do are supposed to help us rediscover this union between all these parts. We do not create this union. And it's good that we don't have to create that. It would have uh, created a lot of problems. But if we are able to see this as truth within ourselves, that all these things are connected and so beautifully connected, and suppose there is a problem, like I get hurt somewhere, then the entire body, without leaving aside their differences, all the cells have certain things in common, and certain things, they are completely specialized activity in each cell. So they leave aside their differences for a while and gather together all the energy to address the problem at physical level or whatever level. Suppose it is a trauma, if there is bleeding, the entire resources get mobilized in such a manner that the problem is addressed beautifully. So we are all born with all those abilities, and this mm, if this realization dawns upon us that I don't have to really create this union, it's already there. I have to just rediscover it. And if you, in the process, as I said, that if you go through meditation, meditative way of doing yoga practices, and integrating meditation into daily living, that means being composed and quiet and collected inside because of the practice of yoga. And then if you enter yourself, within yourself, and start seeing what is happening, and not analyzing everything that is happening, just pure seeing, then you discover that yes, there is beautiful, not just union, but they are in unison with each other. And that beautiful music, inner music, can be heard only when you're able to sense this. And if this is made possible, then you have the right approach and right attitude towards connecting with the world around. And with this preparation, if you enter into the world and get related with whatever is happening, then you will learn a lot, but it will not entangle you, and you will remain free. So, being free from within and being free in spite of the connection with variety of things in the world that are happening around us, and still maintaining that inner poise and equilibrium, is what living yoga means, or walking the path of yoga means. Because yoga is not just inside, as I said, it is everywhere. So this all the differences that we see are just apparent reality, but deep down everything is connected with each other, and that realization has to actually dawn upon us. We are not supposed to practice that uh, realization, because realization cannot be practiced. Other things can be practiced. Realization only dawns upon you. So uh, the point I'm trying to emphasize is we have to start understanding ourselves well. We have to understand that yoga is not to be created, it's already there. I have to just rediscover it. And with proper approach, proper attitude, proper understanding, approach world and whatever is happening in this ephemeral world, just connect with it every time, understand what is happening, and not impose what you feel about it, but just let it be perceived as things are, and that will relieve you from all the entanglements and keep you free within yourself as well as while dealing with situations in life, dealing with people that you come across, then problems that you encounter. So all that is happening in the outer world, and as a reflection of that, it is also happening inside. But if you are able to just understand, be with what is happening, understand what is happening, discover, not get carried away by apparent reality, but also at the same time look for what is lying hidden beneath that reality. That would help in understanding the whole truth, understand the whole reality. And when you understand the whole reality, that realization itself will relieve you from all the tensions. And that is so beautiful when it starts
Samprasad
happening.
ji, just a minute.
Ah,
The present process that you are promoting at your center,
mhm.
the Swananda and the three steps
Sahayog
of
sadhana.
essence. So,
Swanand
is it
Sahayog
possible?
sadhana.
Can you sort of enumerate in brief so that people
Yeah,
carry home something? It need not be
yeah.
elaborate technique, but whatever is the ideology in the three steps.
Yeah, the idea is to experience that true happiness within yourself, and which is possible only when your mind is completely silent. And along with mind, when your I-ness is also silent, then you actually get connected with your core self, which is nothing but Satchidananda. And when you experience that real bliss inside, when you are one with the core self, actually we are one with the core self all the time, but when you become aware again with your core self, which is blissful, and if when you get that experience of true bliss which lies within you, then you don't go out in search of bliss, but you go out in the world with bliss, in a blissful state. So when you are in search of something, then you tend to exploit what you get. But when you are going out in the world with happiness and not in search of happiness, then you spread happiness. So idea is Swananda means true happiness, which is only which you can experience only when your mind is completely silent and you're one with your core self, which is Satchidananda, right? And that brings complete satisfaction, complete fulfillment, and that enables you to not expect anything from anybody because you are so fulfilled and satisfied with the experience of true ananda inside, true bliss inside. Because if you are not happy, then automatically you tend to search for happiness in the outer world, and then whatever you come across, you tend to make use of it for your happiness. And when you make use of something for your happiness, means that you're in a way exploiting it. But when you're fulfilled, then your approach is different. And that fulfillment comes only when you're in complete union with your true self. Or when you realize that your your identity is not just apparent reality, what you look to others and to you, and what is changing every moment, but you're also a changeless, universal, changeless self, which is connected with the all pervasive, universal energy principle or Brahman, because it is all pervasive. The oneness that you experience inside yourself in all the components, and if you are able to see the same in the outer world, then you are in sync with the reality of life. And when you are in sync with reality, then automatically you experience bliss within yourself and you remain blissful most of the time. So, experiencing bliss is Swananda, and sharing it with others, not teaching others or not preaching others, but just sharing in a very humble and very um, serviceful, service-minded approach, then that would not affect your state of bliss inside. Because when you try to preach or teach, then you tend to give prominence to our I-ness, and that I-ness spoils everything. But if you're familiar with no thought state every day with meditation, and if you're aware of that no thought state, and you also experience that bliss every day, then bliss becomes your first second nature to begin with, and later on your first nature, and you act out of that bliss. And that I think is the real important thing that we have to understand, because Swananda will uh, make you self-sufficient in a way, because we are not really self-sufficient, because what what basic uh, primordial principles we are made up of, they are not in control of us, and whatever other things outside us are also made up of, they are they carry the same principles, but still we have no control over them. So our sense of control over ourselves is, I I think, is a big misconception and a big illusion. Actually, nothing is in our control. Come to think of it, just take an example of breath. We have to take breath inside and also exhale, inhale as well as exhale. We can just continue to inhale indefinitely or exhale indefinitely. And who controls this? How far we have to inhale and how far we have to exhale is all finely tuned internal mechanisms that make it possible, and which are not in our control. Like, for instance, I had a breakfast in the morning, and now we are reaching uh, lunch time, and whatever I have eaten as breakfast, it is being digested and assimilated in the body without my conscious knowledge. And when the time to lunch comes, uh, my hunger pangs will get activated, and then I'll be compelled to eat, sort of. So I'm not creating hunger. I'm not creating thirst. I'm not creating anything. I'm just making use of those signals. Again, how I'm supposed to make use of those signals is also decided by the inner faculties that we are born with. So, sense of doership is also an illusion. We have no control over breath. We don't have control over space. We don't have control over air that we breathe. Right now, I'm sitting in my office, and I might be inhaling air coming from China or from Japan or US or North Pole or South Pole, because air is getting mixed all the time, moving from one place to another without any um, national geographical barriers. It's just freely flowing. Space is also everywhere, over which I have no control. But just to give an example, breath is what we can easily understand, that if I had real control, then I should be able to breathe in for, say, 1 month and breathe out for the next month. But that is not possible. We are forced to inhale and we are forced to exhale by nature's processes. So, Swananda makes you self sufficient in that sense, that you become fulfilled because of that bliss that you experience all the time. And therefore, you move in this world, work in this world with that bliss inside and not in search of bliss. And that makes a world of difference, because when you're in search of something, you get activated and disturbed all the time. But when you are happy and you're not depending on anything external for your happiness, then you're just having good time all the time. Having good time all the time is a great thing, isn't it? And for that to happen, We have to be we have to be having good time with ourselves to begin with, and later on with others around us, and that is Swananda Sayog Sadhana. So you first experience Swananda or bliss, and then share it with others with affection, love, and service mindedness, and also being free of that. I mean, with that humility, that humbleness, because whatever we achieve, and as I said, that I amness is an illusion. And of course, this is a very interesting topic, but would require a lot of time to elaborate and explain and explore with you. But I would say that walking the path of yoga implies that you have to walk uh, inside yourself and also outside yourself. So you have to prepare yourself from within first and then walk outside in such a manner that outer things would not matter to you much. Your inner poise will not get disturbed. And for that, you have to make use of Ashtanga Yoga. And if you understand the basic concepts well and delve deep into them, discover the truth that lies with each concept and how each concept, particularly expounded by Maharshi Patanjali, if you really delve deep, you discover certain things uh, which you have to discover yourself to understand, because they are not they cannot be put into words so easily. And such things are very precious, because whatever is put into words has a short-lived life. But what you sense something from inside remains with you forever. So that's what walking the path of yoga means, that it takes you from realizing yoga within yourself and realizing it outside every moment.
Yeah,
Want to
that's
say something?
wonderful of you. Uh, we have some more time, so in case you want to give some simple tips. Meanwhile, I was just, in the initial days of having entered the field of yoga, had some very interesting stories that I came across. People say that, I want to go deep into myself. Okay, I want to go deep into myself. And I recall having gone to Sandeepani Sadhanalaya at Chinmayanan's mission, and Chinmayananji gave a classic story. And somehow, in years to come, I think the best thing that I would be doing is become a storyteller, because, no amount of telling people that this is right and that is wrong. People somehow recall stories much better than the actual, detailed description of things. So what I still recall so well, he was so fantastic. I mean, Chinmayananji, Dayananji, both of them were fantastic communicators. The manner in which they emphatically would speak, and the manner in which they would have got into you was so grand. So they were trying to tell that going deep into you, really want to go deep into, I'll give you a story. Chinmayananji said, okay. So there were two fishes, two small fishes, okay, in the sea, and let us put them as me as my name as Uday. There was one fish called Uday fish, and there was another fish called Vijay fish. Okay, so this Uday fish and Vijay fish were fighting,
And
fighting for what?
third fish is Samprasad fish. If you want to.
Okay, so Uday and Vijay fish, small fishes, were telling, Uday was saying, Vijay, my uncle stays in Black Sea. You know how big it is? Ah, it is the biggest sea, Black Sea. I mean, you will never know. My uncle is great, Black Sea. Then Vijay said, you don't know which is basically Arabian Sea is so big, so vast, and a big fish that is Samprasad ji is observing. These two fellows are, fighting, trying to talk of Black Sea and Arabian Sea, and this is big and that is big. So he said, okay, I will show you the sea. I will show you the Black Sea, I will show you the Arabian Sea, I will show you the Pacific Ocean, I will show you the Bay of Bengal within a second. Okay? So he catches both the fishes and takes them out of the water. And says, look down. That is all the seas are seen there. They say, no, we don't want to see. And he drops both of them down. Because the fish, the moment it is out of water, the basic thing is survival. So we human beings sometimes, forget that we
I am
are
reminded of another story.
Yeah,
A fish.
I will just complete this. Yeah.
You have to finish.
We constantly keep saying we are so complete in itself, like he said, we are seamless, this, that. Everything is so much within us, but we try to look around into the Black Sea and the Arabian Sea and this sea, and we are not able to peep into ourselves with a simple thing called the breath. Simple thing called the breath, a hotline to the Jiva. What more do you want? You don't need anything extraordinary. Okay, so Samprasadji, you can give your story.
One fish asked, it was a small fish, it asked his mother, I've heard about sea from so many of my friends. Can you take me to the sea? And his mom tells him that you are inside the sea, sea is inside you, and everywhere around is sea. You are born in sea, you will die in sea. So that's what actually is the reality, that the truth is everywhere. We have to just discover and live up to it.
Anything else you would like to sort of add or subtract? If you, on the path of yoga, one of the, so peculiar things that I keep finding across, people are talking of such high fundas sometimes. And I don't know what is a high funda and a low funda. क्योंकि मैं तो भाई दिल्ली वाला हूँ, मैं बम्बई में पला हूँ, and aristocrat life. And ये this high funda है, यहाँ से ये किया तो वो होता है, वहाँ से वो किया तो ये होता है. I mean, all kinds of juggleries people in the name of yoga seem to be doing. Some of the most simple things, simple things. I was just trying to contemplate the other day that Jalaneti, Vamandhavati, these simple looking Shuddhi Kriyas, they're so beautiful to help you vent yourself. We are locked up, we are so locked up within. Simple thing like Vaman, you drink water and without stimulation, just get the water out. It's so beautiful, so different. You're not reacting. There is a basic difference between what Ayurvedic approach of maybe Vaman and Yogic Vaman is. There, it is the medicines which work and then there is absolutely no control and you vomit out. In Yogic Vaman, you enjoy. There's a lot of difference. You flex forward, you do swallowing action, and you just say, I want the water to come out. Kulcha sim sim. That should be the approach. And why stimulate, irritate? It is not vomiting. It is Vaman, it is Kunjal, it is to be enjoyed. In fact, the entire field of yoga, friends, has to be enjoyed. It is not torture to the human system. आजकल उटपटांग ऐसा कुछ लोग कर रहे हैं आसन के नाम से, यहाँ से पैर डाला, वहां से निकाला, मी म्हटलं हे फार चांगलं झालं. आता ह्याला जर टाका घालायची वेळ आली ना तर त्याला स्विंग मशीन सारखं वापरा. use the fellow's leg as a swing machine. I tell you, all kinds of complications people do. It's not so. It is simple. It is really, really simple. We are somewhere responsible for making it complicated. Let simplicity prevail. What basics are there? Stick to the basics and not complicate life. Because otherwise, the fun of yoga, people will lose faith in the field of yoga. If in the name of yoga you start torturing, complications are not necessary. हर अंग में आनंद है, हर अंग में आनंद है, आसन की परिभाषा में ही आनंद है. सुख, ख is space, and you have to enjoy the spaces that get created in your living system. So enjoying, it is not forcing that this leg must go there, that leg must go there. The other day, somebody was saying, Paschimottanasana means the forehead must touch the knees. I said, what about if somebody doesn't have the knees? I mean, where does he go? He doesn't have knee and he is going to do Paschimottanasana. So where is the forehead and the knee issue involved? कहीं भी क्वांटिफिकेशन, वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट, कहीं भी क्वांटिफिकेशन नहीं बताया है. प्राणम पश्चिमम वाहनम करोति इति पश्चिम उत्थान आसन. इट इज उत्थान, उत्थित भव. इट इज लिफ्टिंग द करंट्स along the spine and enjoying them, feeling them. जब आप फोरहेड घुटनों का लगाने की कोशिश करते हो, that becomes पूर्व आकुंचनासन. It is not Paschima Utthanasan for sure. And believe me, I may be an aristocrat, but I can be pinning down people to fundamentals left and right. ये पूर्व आकुंचनासन हो जाएगा. You will be contracting the anterior wall so much that there is no chance of your mind feeling something at the rear side. So the rear side has to be enjoyed. Paschima marga khulna chahiye. Khul ja sim sim jaise. You would like to add something, Samprasad ji?
Yeah,
We
this
have to.
effortless ease that actually means kaivalya, and that effortless ease comes under yoga practice, because Thirasukhamasana and Prayatna Shaitilya Ananta Samapattibbhyam. The Prayatna Shaitilya means effortless ease, and Ananta Samapatti is oneness with the universal consciousness. But unless you are familiar with the consciousness within yourself and the qualitative similarity between your consciousness and universal consciousness, you cannot experience that oneness with it, which is Ananta Samapatti. And the beauty of yoga posture, as rightly mentioned by Udayji, that it is not just physical contortions of the body, but Bhagavan Patanjali says that the result of yoga is tato dvandvana bhigataha. That means what is the result of doing all those practices at physical level? It will result into dissolution of dvandvas, or dissolution of dualities and dichotomies and conflicts in life. So I always ask the audience whenever I go for a speech or talk or discourse, that after doing yoga practices over a period of time, do you actually experience uh, being free of dualities, being free of dichotomies in life? Like dichotomies are like likes and dislikes, then good and bad, worthwhile, not worthwhile, and they are so individual specific, and they are so biased from individual level, that same perception, same object can create different perceptions, hundreds of perceptions in different people. And in that sense, earlier I had mentioned that yoga, although it is same for everybody, it is not actually same, because everybody learns it differently, looks at it differently. Whatever is explained, whatever is there mentioned in the scriptures, Still, when you understand at your individual level, it is turned into individualized understanding. And you have to really refine yourself, refine your consciousness so much that you are able to decipher the exact meaning of those sutras and from what state of being those sutras have appeared to Bhagavan Patanjali. Because they are, Bhagavan yoga is called as darshana. It is not just uh, bringing uh, dissimilar things together. But as I said, it is a seamless unison and union. But um, if you are able to see these differences, like good and bad, worthwhile, not worthwhile, vice and virtue, all these differences are human made and they are not available. There, you cannot experience them in the world outside human world. So the point I'm making is if we are able to understand this, that the real effect of yoga practice, physical yoga practice or yoga posture, is not dissolution of dichotomies and um, conflicts, but it is living with them while you are in the working in the outside world. You have to live with dichotomies, and when you are handling the problems within yourself, again you have to use the same approach, learning to live with without any friction, without any disturbance, is what living yoga means. Because you cannot change the dualities like um, earth and the material world and the energy world. They are not actually dichotomies, they are united from inside. So dichotomies are apparent reality, but underlying reality is oneness between them. So if you are able to understand this oneness through understanding the yoga within yourself, then those dichotomies would not matter to you and they will not disturb you, and therefore transcending them would not be a big problem, would not be so difficult.
Okay, Samprasad ji, let us
Mhm.
thank Manjari ji wholeheartedly for
Yes.
having arranged this fantastic festival. We go through a simple prayer of Sarvepi Sukhina Santu.
Yes.
Yeah. Sarvepi
Sarvetra
Sukhina
Sukhinos
Santu.
Santu.
सर्वे सन्तु निरामया सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु
Santu.
मा कश्चित् दुःखमाप्नुयात् ॐ शान्तिः
Shanti.
शान्तिः शान्तिः.
Thank you, everybody, and namaste.
So thank you, Samprasad ji. Thank you, Renu ji,
Thank
for
you. Thank you.
introducing us. Goodbye.
Thank
Thank
you.
you for the great insights into yoga practice. Thank you, Yogi Dr. Samprasad Vinod and Shree Uday Pendse for being IFSI guests. We will begin our next discussion, Reclaiming Our Heritage and Culture, at 1:30 p.m. See you then.